Alrighty, traders, this is Blake Morrow. You are listening to the Daily Roundup webinar. I hope everybody's having a great trading session and happy Monday. Boy, I'll tell you, the dollar's a little weaker for the most part, but we are starting to see the dollar pick up against certain currencies, and I think it's worth noting. So let's start with the yen, and this is going to be pretty important. So last week, we my chart of the day was the chart of the day was the dollar yen, and I think I argued at that point we had a false breakdown. We were nudging up against this resistance. We pulled back, and I look at these moves like this one right here, and I look at this one right here. These both look like stop loss runs. Now, the problem is when you get a stop loss run, it gets in this case, it gets everybody who is long, it shakes them out, and it gives it the opportunity to reverse, or in this case would be rally. So we're seeing the dollar yen push right up against this this downtrend line, which is important. And what's more important, in my opinion, is all this previous support, current resistance, 618 retracement, all comes in around 105.82. We're at 105.73. So I think we got to watch if the US dollar Japanese yen starts to break higher. The question is it going to drag the rest of the dollar pairs higher? So you go over to the euro and you're like, okay, well, I know the euro's nudging against some pretty key resistance. We broke this trend line here, right? But we're actually at the neckline of the head and shoulder pattern, or rounded top, or whatever we want to call it. Let me get rid of this one really quick. So we're pushing up against this trend line, okay? But if the dollar really starts to rally against the yen, does that turn the euro lower from here? And I think if the euro drops back below the 117.70, I think that's when we have to start thinking, okay, shoot, this dollar might actually turn higher, is what I mean. Okay. The cable's not giving us any clues. The commodity currencies really aren't either. I mean, you look at the Aussie that's just sitting there, the Kiwi's just sitting there, the Canadians, drifted lower, but we're, for the most part, just sitting there. The dollar Mexican pesos, emerging market currencies are kind of all over the place, but the dollar Mex, might have found some support here. But I think a lot of this is being driven by the dollar yen, and then we have to watch the euro to see if the euro might, expand on these gains or reverse at a key level. And you look at the dollar index is doing the same thing because it's obviously the inverse of the euro. So I'm not sold on the idea that the dollar is heading a lot lower. We are at pivotal areas for the dollar right now. And, the dollar yen is not, it's not as risk sensitive as it once has been, meaning it's not moving necessarily with stocks or against stocks, risk on, risk off anymore. It's becoming more of a quote unquote dollar pair. So this is going to be one other thing that I want to bring out today. Now, obviously stocks are rallying, and Mira asked if I could look at crude. I will. But this is probably one of the things that's driving the dollar right now, which is a big deal. Look at the 10-year. Okay. We were flirting with a breakdown in the 10-year last week, right? This one right here. Flirting with this breakdown. Now it looks like the 10-year is trying to break down. If the 10-year continues to break lower, that means that yields are rallying. If yields are rallying, the question is, does that give a bid to the dollar across the board? I'm not sure what the answer is yet, but I think it's worth noting that we have to start watching it, because the 10-year has been in this super tight trading range. You could actually say all summer long, right? Yeah, we probed the highs here, and yes, we kind of probed through support, but really for the last 4 or 5 months, we've just been sideways, right? So if we start to break, like let's say this happens, if that starts to happen, does that feed dollar strength? We have to be on guard. We have to be on guard. We have to be watching it. Okay, Amira asks for the crude oil market. Let's take a look at crude. Crude's, bouncing around. I think, let me get rid of this. Resistance being the 50-day moving average, maybe up here at 41, support at 36. I think it rolls over, but it has more to do with stocks, right? I mean, as long as stocks stay elevated, you're going to find buyers down here. And I think that's what we found today. Okay. I think that's realistically what's happening right now. So maybe the way to approach crude is the next time, if we get another dip towards 36.50, you take it long with a tight stop, because this way you know what your risk is, right? And then if it breaks through that 36 level, that would be a bearish event, right? But right now, I don't know what to do with crude. I mean, you're back above the 200-day moving average. Does it make it bullish? No, not necessarily, because it looks like we're just kind of building a top, like rounding a top. Just it would be the opposite of building a base, for bulls. It's like it looks like it's rounding a top to eventually roll over. But it's not ready to break down just yet, right? Okay, so guys, thank you so much for your support. For those of you ForexAnalytix subscribers, thank you. Remember, if you missed the Traders Summit event, if you go to tradersummit.net, you can actually watch all of the recordings there for those of you guys that missed it. And I want to say thank you guys for all of your support all the time. And I'll see you guys in the chat room if you are entitled to that. If not, I'll see you in the morning on the Face webinar. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Brock.